50,000 visitors here every year at the Citadel. It's a great place to be. If you have a camera, now's a good time to pull it out. We're going to get some really nice view of the harbor down there. And coming up on your right, you'll see one of the most recognizable Halifax images, the Old Town Clock. Commissioned by Prince Edward in 1803, he had a master plan to instill a virtue of punctuality for generations to come in the city. He was sick of all his soldiers and all his citizens being late, so he built a clock. There would be no excuse not to see. No one would ever be late again. It still has the same clockwork from 1803. You rewind it twice a week to keep things up to date. Now coming up here, you'll get your first glimpse of our living history. There's tours daily. Everyone's in old-time garb, including the 78th Highlanders in the fancy red suit and intimidatingly tall hat. My summer goal is to get him to smile at me. So far, not so good, but we all need something to work for. Now, as we're coming around, you'll notice we start to twist and turn. Not only does it help show off the smooth handling of the harbor hopper, it also happens because this fort is shaped as an 8-pointed star. In medieval times, forts to be surrounded by a circular formation, but that's a little too passive. Halifax knew we needed something more intimidating. The star shape allows us to have one soldier at the end of every point. So if you're a real foolhardy attacking soldier running up the hill with all the wartime fervor, then you will be forced in between 2 points of the star, where you will be seen by at least 2 people. And if you make it past that, then you'll fall into what I like to call the ditch of death. It's a 15-foot dry ditch. If you see all the grass on top of the stone walls here, it's part of an optical illusion. So when you're that soldier coming up from below, all you see is this beautiful hill. Looks like a meadow you can graze in if you're a happy cow, but you will actually end up in the ditch. And if you survive getting between the points and you survive falling into the ditch, don't worry, there are cannon holes in the ditch to get any survivors. Now, this is all very intimidating and scary, so you might be wondering, how many times has Halifax Citadel been attacked? Do we have any guesses? You guys are good. Yeah. Halifax Citadel has never, ever been attacked. People are too scared to deal with us. We are too crazy, or they're just not patient enough. It took us 28 years to finish our fort. By the time it was done, all the fighting was done, but we have a great fort to show for it, and it has been garrisoned or defended and protected the city multiple times, including both world wars, so it definitely serves its function. Down below us here on your right, you'll see a natural amphitheater. It's been home to many exciting acts, such as the Rolling Stones, and our personal favorite, the Backstreet Boys. If you're lucky, we'll do a duet later. Sam's got a great tenor. And up here, you'll see 2 tall ship masts. In 2003, Halifax was devastated by Hurricane Juan. Its winds were so strong that they took a ship from the harbor, lifted it up the Citadel Hill, and it's been there since. Did anyone believe me? It's a bad one. No, that didn't happen. These are actually part of a signaling system. They were never attached to a boat. Flags are flown up and down. They're connected to the base. You can probably see it from here. The small island out in the harbor has similar mast, and they would fly their flag up to let people at the fort know when ships were coming in and out of the harbor. That's what the taller mast is for. The shorter mast is for secret codes and messages. The system went all the way from here to the Annapolis Valley in the province, which is about 150 kilometers, and it only took 15 minutes for the message to get from here to there, which is quicker military equipment, as well as the oldest military mess in Canada, and an old barrack. Now, speaking of cannons and guns, you might know about the little tradition we have here in Halifax. Besides eating lunch at noon every day, we also fire a cannon off into the city. It's a blank round because taxes are high enough. We don't need to be doing construction all the time. Every day since 1857, they fire off a blank round, except on Christmas Day. If you don't want to look like a tourist, don't duck, and you'll be good. Now, Citadel Hill, they're open May to October, but their grounds are open year-round. And one really good activity is sledding. Look at that hill. Like, you can get some crazy speed on a crazy carpet. I recommend. I did it. It's fun. Across the street here, we'll see our first glimpse of the public gardens.
There.
They were established in 1867 by the Nova Scotia Horticultural Society. They take up 16 acres of beautiful green space smack dab in the middle of the city.
People go sledding down
We'll get a good view of them. We're going to go around three of the four sides of it.
Saucers.
Do you know what makes a Victorian garden a Victorian garden? Well, I've been told that it is, you have to have more than 4 different kinds of trees, because one thing the Victorians liked, besides believing that nature would improve their morals and their overall health, so they like to be out in it, they also believed that they wanted to look at the flowers that had come from afar. So there's a lot of non-native species there that they would take back from their travels and display in their gardens. So, anyways, long story short, you have to have more than 4 different kinds of trees, and your paths have to be wide enough for 2 women to walk by in beautiful heeled skirts side by side without bumping into each other. And Sim and I tried this out last week. Vince, always check your facts. Now you'll see a duck pond in there. There's a beautiful scale model of the Titanic. And not encouraged to throw ice cubes at it. It's a bad thing to do. But the pond has an interesting story. It's called Griffin's Pond, named after Frederick Griffin. He was a fun guy living in Halifax in the 1820s and happened to be the last public hanging in the gardens. So you might wonder why we named a pond after him. Well, a couple days after he was hanged, someone comes up and says, "Oh man, I haven't slept in 3 nights. I've been so guilty. I killed him, not Griffin." Throughout the years, including a covered skating rink, a croquet field, and my personal favorite, an archery field. Who doesn't want to throw some arrows around while you're looking at some plants? It sounds like an awesome pastime. I'm sad it was not during my time. Yeah. The hurricane one, the bit I told you on the hill, we all know was a big joke. You're gonna get hurricane and devastating, and you're gonna get hurt. And one it really wrecked was one of our public gardens. Some of the original trees that had been there since its beginnings in the 1860s were destroyed. The gates caught quite a whack and insane bandstand in the middle. Now, we really, really love our public gardens, and this is so well. The fact that in the first weekend after the hurricane, in just 48 hours, in private fundraising, we raised $1 million to go back into restoration, and now they're looking better than ever. If you can see the guy behind that tent there, that is Robert Burns, a statue of him. You might recognize his work. He is famous for the famous Old Lang Syne New Year song, as well as being the namesake for the Mice and Men of Mice and Men. He was a poet. If anyone wants to sing Old Lang Syne, I'm happy to lend a mic. It's the wrong time of year, you're right. As we come across the intersection, we're going to enter Spring Garden Road. Only 6 city blocks, but it is the busiest pedestrian street east of Montreal. We get over 25,000 people walking up and down it every day. I kind of wonder whose job it is to count. And one of my favorite things about driving down Spring Garden is that people love to wave at us. Being a come from away, coming from Ontario, one of the first things I noticed was how friendly Nova Scotians are. They didn't make it up. The East Coast really is as charming as you think it would be. Like, in Ontario, our crosswalks don't work. Like, you don't trust a crosswalk, and even if you have the white shining light, it's still a bit of a risk to go, where here it's like they're stopping before you even knew you wanted to cross the street. They also compost a lot here. It's a nice place to be. On the corner here, you'll see Jennifer's of Nova Scotia. It's a local craft shop. Everything is handmade all from the province, and the ladies there are so nice. They love to tell the stories about where things come from, even put you in contact.
I went to college down the street, right there on the left.
Now, Spring Garden Road, very built up now, one of the busiest restaurant and business districts in the city. It used to be all residential. This is the last residential building left on the street, that blue house in between the Tim Hortons. Wow. At the turn of the century in the Industrial Revolution, we started building it up. The business makers wanted to come to the city and make their fortune. So the residential houses were a thing of the past. It used to be that people would go to the gardens and then walk past all the beautiful Victorian-style homes on the street. On the corner here is my bank, the BMO, where I go and pay my student loans and cry. And across from the bank is a much happier building. We'll soon see. It is the new public library. Yeah, it's definitely worth a look if you have a chance. It's 5 floors, all glass, one of the greenest buildings in the province. It has so much natural light, and you can see the harbor from the 5th floor. If you look out, there's a little cafe and a garden on the roof. It's definitely a beautiful place to check out. It's just opened this past December, and one of my friends went in and cried because they were so happy. Over here is our old public library, not a far haul for the books. And you'll see a statue of Winston Churchill. It's based on a likeness of him, or based on a picture of him when he was visiting Halifax in 1943 during World War II. He was mid-stride, and he was quoted during his visit saying that, "Now I can tell people that Halifax is more than just a shed on the end of the wharf," which is always my goal with what you guys say after you leave my tour. But